Hallelujah, hallelujah. Welcome everyone once again to another Torah Tanakh review. My name is Uzi one of the teachers of Congregation D.C.B located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York, 382 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York. Our zip code is 11231. Would like to thank all of you for tuning in once again. Would like to thank all of you for all of your support to our channel and thinking that we're worthy to be listened to. Giving glory to the Most High, King of the universe first and foremost. And his name is to be glorified at all times. So I give glory to his name, and I pray that he watch over us and keep us and be all over us. Also, thanking the Most High, creator of heaven and earth, for this time and for the wisdom that he's granted all of us, even in these the lands of our captivity. I'm grateful for what the Creator has done for me in my life and what He continues to do for my family and for my loved ones. Giving due respect to the leadership of Congregation Bay D.C.B, the spiritual leader of our organization, even Chief Prince Yeriel Ben Yissaskar, praying that the Creator of heaven and earth be with him, be with his family, his household, that he bless them. Also praying that the Most High God be with all of our elders, all of our mothers and fathers, and the entire nation of Yisrael. Those on the internet, pray that the Most High God be with you and will bless you. At this time, we're going to go over another Haftarah review. And the name of this, I think the teacher will be going over Haftarah Shalak. So it's a week behind what we're currently doing on Shabbat, but nonetheless, it's still something that is to be listened to and digested, and there's still something that's going to be helpful brought forth by the teacher. So without any further ado, I introduce to you the teacher for the Haftarah, as he does every week. Even one of my mentors and one of my teachers, Nasik, Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Baruch Hashem. First of all, I'd like to give praise to the Supreme Eternal Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, and due respect to the platform on the D.C.B channel platform, spiritual leader, Chief Prince Yeriel Ben Yissaskar, to the host, Chief Uziel, to the princes, Chief, Kohanim, Rabbinate, Marine, brothers and sisters and visitors. I greet you all in the term of my forefathers. Shalom Aleichem and an early Shabbat Shalom. I'll be like Chief Uziel said, we'll be behind being pretend that those that's outside the land will have, be behind at this particular time. So if you those that was in Israel, it's like going to the future. And if you came over and flew over within that week's time before the next Shabbat, it's like you coming to the future getting information. But that was a designation that was for years ago. That's why sometimes on the calendar you will see just particular Sidra being in America, Shalak posted at a certain time. But we'll catch up when it'll be a double Sidra, which will come up, eventually. So now, what's interesting about Shalak, it comes right behind the last Sidra when we end up with Behoratheka. And one thing, it talks about the character of Moses. We know we had a problem in his family, his immediate family, with rough talk. And Miriam and Aaron, spoke against Moses, their brother. And that's how the last Sidra ends off. And what's interesting, if Miriam had an issue, or if they had an issue, why didn't they take it to Moses? Why did they talk amongst themselves concerning Moses? And then who was it to tell each other to say, did not God speak with us? So those are some things that should be, further, looked into. And then why, out of all the characteristics and greatness Moses had, as a warrior, brave, an intercessor, he's only accredited with being the meekest man in the whole earth. And that, recognizing his meekness, he's not playing down his skills, but that's what the Creator tell them, that he's most trusted about all this whole house. So how big is the Creator house? Something that kind of consider. But now we comes into the area that we find that this is still in the second year that we get into the book of Shalom. So we know that they just had made their first move from Mount Sinai within the second year, pretty much. So we know that after they made their first move from Mount Sinai, the cloud lifted up, they made their first journey. We picked that up in the previous Sidra. And we know that it was the second year. And we know pretty much the 20th day of the month. So we understand pretty much what time they left. Pretty much, the time they left. We know that when they left, when the cloud lifted up and it was a journey, that Miriam got cursed with Sarai, which we commonly call leprosy. And we know that when Miriam got hit with leprosy, and Moses had the shortest prayer on record, the longest prayer and the shortest prayer. And the Creator didn't answer his prayer right away. He said, let her be, put out the camp for 7 days. So at a rough estimation of time, you're talking roughly around the 20th of the month of what we call the D.C.B, the third month, that they begin to move out from this particular juncture. So now, because they didn't travel while Miriam got hit with Sarai. So let's give you a little chronological background. So now we got this time, but this is in the second year, within that third month. And it opens up in the 13th chapter, which is the book of Shalom, which means, send or send out. And most times some people would call it Shalach Lekah, send for yourself. And some, it's various reasons why some people just say the Sidra Shalach Lekah, or just say Shalach. All right. One would imply that it's Moses involved favor, it was more for his favor. When you just say Shalach, it's like, okay, I really ain't got any idea or dibs in this. So, but we read later on in the history in the book of Deuteronomy that the people came to Moses and say, go ahead and send spies out into the land of Canaan. When we got the marching orders to get ready to go, they wanted to do that. So Moses said it sounded good in the book of Deuteronomy when y'all go back and check it out in the early part. And when Moses thought it was sounding good, he sent the guys out. God approved it, because why? We have free will. God already told us way back in Exodus that he brings us to a land that flows with milk and honey. A term that was never used during the patriarchal times. It's only used when we was getting, the first time you read about that term, it's used when we were supposed to be making an exodus out of Egypt. So now we're here, we got these 12, we're gonna have 12 people pick it up. So I like to just open up in the 13th verse, just a little bit. And it says, and the Lord spoke to Moses saying, send thou men that they may spy out the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers shall ye send a man, everyone a prince among them. And Moses sent them according to from the wilderness of Paran, according to the commandments of the Lord, all of them who was heads of the children of Israel. And then he goes on to give their names. All right, and so only one tribe that wasn't mentioned was the tribe Levi, because they wasn't going to inherit land. So that means that we were set to go into land very early. We needed, and sometimes people say, okay, took 3 months to get to Mount Sinai, preparation. When we got the Torah, we messed up with the golden calf. And then after we messed up with the golden calf, then Moses prayed for us. Basically 120 days, from the time, when he come back in the 7th month, pretty much during the calculation. So when we started working on the tabernacle, the Mishkan itself, it was right after the holy days of Sukkot. We started to work on it. And then it was erected and everything was in place within the 2nd year. So the Creator was, after the sin of the golden calf, he said, okay, let me try to help them on their way. But no, we slow the thing down because we come up with a suggestion. Why second guess the Creator? Why investigate what the Creator has said? But we have free will. So those are some things, to consider going forward. And these are top men, chief men. And they took people that's able to speak for people, because sometimes, I like to say, as Black people, a lot of times they say, these are the leaders of the Black community. When I was coming up, they used to hear that phrase a lot. They might show in different ebony magazines, stuff like that, the different leaders of the Black community. Who said they was our leaders and who appointed them as such? Now, I'm sure they might have some following. But the thing is that when you say, these are the leaders of the Black community, then you say, who appointed them as such? So this is something to consider. But when you say they are a leader of a particular community, they're able to speak for them. That's why they had to be people of a certain status and from every particular tribe that would stand to gain from the land as far as property. So now, as I look a little further, it says, these are the names of the men that Moses sent out to spy out of the land. And Moses called Hoshea, the son of Nun, Yehoshua. And Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, and said unto them, get you up here unto the south, and go up into the mountains, and see the land, what it is, and the people that dwelleth therein, whether they are strong or weak, whether they are few or many, and what the land is that they dwell in, whether it is good or bad, and what cities they are that they dwell in, whether in camps or in strongholds, or what the land is, whether it is fat or lean, whether there is a wood therein or not. And ye be of good courage, and bring the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes. What's important here is that we have an area of time, so chronologically we could track, the period of leaving, how soon we were supposed to get into the land, what time of year we were supposed to get into the land, and everything like that within that 2nd year. What's interesting is that the mission was a reconnaissance mission. See, a lot of times we don't follow the mission statement. A lot of times different congregations have mission statements. What's our purpose of opening up a congregation? And when you say your purpose of opening up the congregation, a lot of times you had the bylaws, you had your memberships and all that kind of stuff. But a lot of times people don't follow the mission statement, and here we're gonna have a prime example of people not following the mission statement and changing things up along the way. So what I find pretty interesting is that one word that says if there's wood therein or not, a tree, it's in a singular. Why would you want a land that's supposed to be the glory of all lands that don't have a tree? You're talking about one tree in there, one particular tree. What's so unique about the tree? Well, they use that as a metaphor for if there's anybody there that's holy or righteous enough that could even petition or pray for the city. And that's one of the comments that they use in reference to a tree. But the other stuff we could see from a military strategic mode. Now, what makes that so important about this one individual, whoever they might have been? Because we read about the book of Job. Some people don't believe the book of Job even existed. But we read later on that Daniel, Noah, and Job was alive. They only be able to save themselves. And that's through the prophet. So when we read that later on during the prophecy, we find that this guy, the creator, ain't using fictitious names. We know about Noah. We know about Daniel. We know only about the character and a little bit about Job. So in Abraham's time, he had a guy such as Melchizedek, which Melchizedek, most people refer to. He was a priest of the Most High. So he was a man of good status. Abraham recognized him and gave him a tenth of all that he had. So you have people from time to time. So Moses want to know if there's anybody like that, pretty much that still exists on that side. Because we can maybe go into a military campaign. All right. So that's one. And then what happens is they went up from the south. The southern part of the land of Israel, if you're moving up from the south, going northward, zigzagging throughout the whole land, it's like a merchant. When a merchant say, well, okay, I got stuff to show you. I got stuff to sell. They ain't gonna show you the top stuff first. They're gonna show you the bottom basement stuff. Those that go out to parties and go to the bars say, okay, what you want to drink? Say, oh, go shoot way up to the top shelf. So, when you go up on the top shelf, the stuff costs a lot more than which is on the lower level. So, so it is when we're coming up to the south. Moses sent them through the more drier part of the region, up that particular way, and then go ahead and check it out. Check out the land. So we know how what it entails at this particular point in time. And what's interesting is that we find out another thing too, when that Joshua's name was changed. Now we know he was calling Yehoshua all the time, or Joshua in English all the time. Why at this particular junction and point we read that his name is being changed? And Moses called him something different. Why? And then out of all the 12 guys, why him? As opposed, did he consider everybody else is worthy? Or could it be Joshua more represented his personal interest in a sense, because he's an actual disciple and never left Moses' side, and therefore Moses took a more concern about his report. So because it would reflect Moses' integrity. It's like the messenger reflects the one that's in the message, so to speak. So when we go back up, I just want to read a couple more things out, and then I just skip on by. We know automatically that when it went up, and they come with a report in that same chapter, this is what they say. And it was in there for 40 days. Now we know to travel the whole land of Israel takes about 100, maybe 100 days or something, somewhere like that. The travel on foot, take a reconnaissance of the whole land, about 100 days or so, from the territory that they was talking about at that particular time. But the Creator allowed them to do it in 40 days. All right. And they was able to bring back proof, testimonies, all right, of what they brought back. And it said, and they told him and said, we came to the land whither thou sentest us, and surely it flowed with milk and honey. And this is the land, this is the fruit of it. Howbeit the people that dwell in the land are fierce, and the cities were fortified, very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. Amalek dwelleth in the south, in the land of the south, and the Hittites and the Jebusites and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea, and along by the side of Jordan. And Caleb still the people towards Moses and said, we should go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. But the men that went up with him said, we're not able to go up against the people, but they are stronger than we. And they spread an evil report of the land which they had spied out unto the children of Israel, the land through which we have passed to spy it out is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof. And all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. And there we saw the Nephilim, the sons of Anak, who come of the Nephilims. And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. And I'm not going to go through the whole thing in this. I just want to bring out some key points here. And one of the points I like to bring out is that how is it that you up there in the land, you're so terrified of these people, but you're there for 40 days. And not only you bringing fruit back, so the Creator allow you to go in, as scouts or spies, as they would say, bringing strategic information for which is the best way to attack it. Now we know the Creator was going to be with us and fight with us when we showing ourselves worthy. So why would they send the people in the first place if the Creator said He's gonna give us that land? We've seen what He did in Egypt. We've seen what He did at the Yom Suf. We've seen what He did with the food. We've seen what He did at Mount Sinai. And now, all of a sudden, we need to go ahead on and plan a strategy. It's because though you have the Creator with you, you must also take an active role towards your own salvation. That's one lesson that can be learned. But why would these guys rather stay in the desert and instead of going to the land? And these guys, also in just 119 verses within this particular sitra, but these are the guys that was actually elected congregation. They ain't the top princes of each tribe, but they like mid-tier level of each tribe, high-ranking princes and chiefs of the tribes. And why would they rather stay there instead of go ahead into the land which God promised them? Well, there's a lot of things that benefits. You ain't got to work. Food coming every day. You ain't got to worry about bad weather. You got the Creator of a cloudy canopy over the Mishkan, plus protecting you at night. So you got light at night, warmth, and coolness in the day, shade in the day. So now the economy ain't gonna change. What you left Egypt with, you ain't spending any money. The cattle you got, if they normal cattle, they're being fruitful and multiplying. So you're not wasting your cattle. So now that means that everybody has money. No one had to say, what you gonna do today? Well, I guess I'm gonna study a little Torah and go out and pray. So that's all they was doing, pretty much. They had no job to go to, no fields to report to, other than maybe feed their own cattle and their family. The hardest job the men had was gathering the Omer. That was their hardest job at that time. So now the Omer was only going to be temporary. So sometimes with the laws we had, and I just want to bring out some things before I go into the Haftarah. Some of the laws we had at the time were only laws that could be, that we didn't do a lot of laws. In other words, when we read later on about the other offerings mentioned later on after the 40-year penalty, that those laws only could be done in the land, which seems out of place. And then you say, well, why this chapter comes right behind that of Miriam and Aaron when they spoke evil. And then it's that evil report of the land. First of all, the mission statement, which I started off earlier, was not to say whether you could conquer the land or not. That wasn't part of the program. Your job was to look and bring information concerning those things that was enumerated by Moses. So now nobody asks your opinion. And then when you look at the text, pretty much they bring that information back to all the people, but Moses is the one charged them to go out. So if you report back to the one that sent you and not to the audience of the whole assembly at one time. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to speak on it that much, but it teaches you a lot of things about mission statements and about leadership and where your responsibility lies. So we know the people complain, everything like that. We know that Joshua, they wanted to stone Moses, Joshua, and Caleb, and the Creator hit him with a plague. Those guys died. So we know about all that. And it was cursed the stay in land for 40 days. Wanted for 40 years. And the first year that they left Egypt was included within that 40-year period. What we find here pretty much interesting is that that sentence there, the Creator said, your children will, get the land, but the rest of y'all would die in the wilderness from 20 years and upward. So the 20-year upward only affected those men that was counted in the census, so basically 20 to 60, at the time. Those that was counted in the census, it didn't include the women, and it didn't include the Levites. So a lot of people was destined to die. And when they said they couldn't fight, they didn't want to fight. And then it's even worse when you think Mimenu is a word that's used here later on, which means, stronger than us, when they talk about stronger than us from us, in that sense. But it also could be the same word without a change, could mean stronger than him. Who's the him they're talking about? Their God, their philosophy, them people there is much stronger than the God we serve. We're not sure, exactly how is it explained, because a lot of this, debates about the evil report concerning the land. Could it be it's because the land was swallowed up? Because if you got to work the land and you got to work it according to the tenets that the Creator set up with the sabbatical year and everything like that, and sowing and this and that, and resting us X amount of once a week, and then every in the 7th year, you got to bring these offerings, harvesting this off, tying it up. What you do, you have little time to study Torah. They have laws that they couldn't implement. So fast forward is there, we know automatically they might up getting 40 years in the wilderness. I just wanted to pass on from that. And then after that, then you have something strange to talk about in this particular Sidra. The laws of diverse offerings. And they start talking about offerings here. So why I talk about offerings now, at the time you're going to be in the land over here for 40 years, is simply because that certain things you have to, some people like to say, well, I'm just going to be holy. I just want to pray all day. I just want to study Torah all day. But you're not doing and contributing anything to the world. We're put here to try to elevate and develop the world into a state where God to be like God's throne room. We're supposed to try to develop the world where it could be suitable for God to have His presence here. So when we look at that, certain laws, we talk about drink offering, wine offerings, wine libations, water libations. We couldn't do that there in the desert. So when you really study the dynamics of how we lived in the desert and the laws of offerings and sacrifice here that is reading about in this particular chapter, these things could not be done. Where you gonna get your first wine from? You're not growing anything. You can get water, but most of the water is, the Creator supplying you with. But and then with the libation stuff, it's supposed to be done. All right, the flour offering, the wheat offerings, where you gonna get it from? That gotta be something you grow. So we had laws already just enumerated here that can only be done in the land. So just sitting down being what we say pious, what people had this image of piety is that they sit there chant all day, don't do anything, isolate themselves from the world. That's not what the Creator had in mind. He put us in this world to develop the world, to make it more godly, and and bring about more of a godly presence within the world. So that's what our job is. But I'm just going to move on a little bit just for the sake of time. And we have a new law that's instituted. We had a problem that happened in here where we had a Sabbath breaker stone, and that's in Numbers, the 15th chapter, the 32nd verse. It said, while the children of Israel in the wilderness, they found a man gathering sticks upon the Sabbath day. And they that found him gathering sticks brought him unto Moses and Aaron, and unto all the congregation. They put him in ward, because it had not been declared what should be done to him. And the Lord said unto Moses, the man shall surely be put to death. All the congregation stoned him with stones without the camp. And all the congregation brought him without the camp and stoned him with stones, and he died as the Lord commanded Moses. Then the very next thing, and the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel and bid them that they make them throughout their generations fringes in the corners of their garments, and that they put with the fringe of each corner a thread of blue. And it shall be unto you for a fringe, that ye may look upon it and remember all the commandments of the Lord and do them, and that ye go not about after your own heart and your own eyes, after which ye used to go astray, that ye may remember and do all my commandments and be holy unto your God. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God. Now, the fringes that most of us wear, or refer to as the CCs, on the corner strings, as some people might, that's not familiar with our style, should be on garments with four corners. There's a lot. I'm not going to go into in depth. I just want to bring out maybe one or two things concerning a few things that concerning the fringe itself. Now, when we read about the law of fringes here, it tell you that it's supposed to be on a garment, and there's only two places where you read about fringes, here and in Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy, it doesn't tell you, about a cord of blue in there. But what's interesting is that the fringe that's put on the four corners is that it comes directly after this guy is stoned, directly after the 40-year march. We had new laws of sacrifice instituted in between that. And yet, where was our mind? We moaning, groaning, complaining, but not thinking. And then this guy here, they knew he did something wrong, but they couldn't figure out what would be the penalty. Wasn't sure about the penalty, or might have been reluctant to execute the penalty. So they knew he was violating. So now, why a string to be a reminder? And why on the four corners of the garment? And then what is interesting, these are some things I'm just throwing out, in passing, is what's interesting is that you're not told to remember God. The strings are remember all the commandments, not God. And we have basically 6 remembrance that talk about, when we left Egypt, when we stood before Sinai, remember what God did to Miriam, not what Miriam said, but what God did to Miriam. Remember Amalek and stuff like that. So 6 major, remembrance that we read about in the book. But here, when it comes to fringe, the remembrance is about all the laws of the Creator and doing them, all the commandments and doing them. And you say, wow. So, they got a lot of ways where they make them. I'm not going to go into, too much of it. I mean, that basically it was just a tassel with some strings, wrapped around the cord. Deuteronomy used it where you get a lean, which is like a twisted cord. We know that sometimes when you find the normal fringes that people wear on the outside, pretty much, the Jewish style, which say the arba, folk, little short poncho type thing. You may have, it's 8 strings, and 8 strings. It's actually 4 strings, but it's doubled over into 8. So it's 4 strings doubled over to 8. And when they wrap it 7, 8, 11, and 13 with 5 knots in between it, but they be double knots. So and they try to use a gematria, which is a thing to try to help remember why the purpose of putting it there. All that's not mentioned here in the book. That is something later on from rabbinic literature and stuff like that. But what I want to focus on is that the purpose is that you be able to, there's the string itself, not even the garment you wear. The string itself is called aziz. And the string itself is to help you remember all the commandments of God and do them. That's what it's all about, your remembrance of all the commandments. So how many commandments do you know? How many things you know that's important? So we know it's like 613 laws, statutes, and judgments within the book. So this is some of the things, they're going to be elaborate a lot more, which, we could take at least an hour on that, but I'm not going to do that at this particular time. I just want to bring out how it comes about, within this particular portion of, Shalom. So that's how it ends in the book of Shalom, with a reminder about all the commandments of God after someone is put to death. So we're going to go straight into the book of Joshua. It was one of the 12 spies, him and Caleb. They only two out of 12 brought back a good report. And Caleb was noted to still a people. So we have a lot of interesting things going on with this Haftarah, because in this particular Haftarah, we have information in the science that's a little different than the first 40 years ago, when 39, I would say, when the other guys were sent out. So I'm going to start just taking from the book of Joshua, which begins to portion of the Tanakh they call the prophecy. And we're going to the second chapter, the first verse. And we're going to complete that second chapter. So if you're ready, Chief, you can start.
We're in the book of Joshua, chapter 2, starting from verse 1. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And Joshua, the son of Nun, sent out of Shittim 2 spies secretly, saying, Go view the land and Jericho. And they went and came into the house of a harlot whose name was Rahab, and lay there.
Hold right there. Mm-hmm. Now, what is so, puzzling here, but we might miss it later on, but I'm gonna come back to it, but we might miss it. But why would you send it out? Now we know Moses had died. Can we read that in Deuteronomy? That Moses had died. We know that people mourn from him. We know what time Joshua crossed over into across the Jordan into the land in the area of Jericho. We know Moses died, and it was at the plains of Moab. And it says the house opened up, and in the Hebrew says Mehashittim. Shittim is a proper noun in itself. The place is a proper noun in itself. Why ha? Why make it a definite article ha in the book, in the Hebrew, for those that read it. And then here we sometimes we might miss it, the importance that it places on that particular spot. But it placed it on that particular spot because that's where Moses last was. That's where he ascended and died in that area. Also, the Al Peor action happened up in that same area. So that was our last frontier area. That's where they mourned for Moses for 30 days. So now we know that Joshua and them crossed over in the tent of the month of Aviv, or Nisan, as some people might call it. So you figure when we backtrack, and you figure if you do a little backtrack and back math, give it a day or two, you figure Moses might have died the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, went around the 7th of Adar. Just doing the math from the time that Joshua had entered the land, and also the time of mourning, and also the episode of these 2 unknown spies here that sent out secretly to spy the land. And then you say, well, okay, if it didn't work the first time, why do it now? And then you don't read here that this was any advice from God. this is something Joshua decided to do on his own, because we don't read where he collaborated with anybody. And then who are these guys? We don't know who they are. We know commentaries say one was Pinchas and one was Caleb. We don't, but in the Tanakh, they leave them undisclosed, because now it's not about them, their mission per se. They're going to be another character they're going to take and unfold in this particular book. And talk about, and here it is, it talk about the harlot whose name was Rahab. Now, the word harlot, I'm not going to go to it. It means what it is, prostitution or something like that. And it also can mean an innkeeper. And she could be a combination of both. Both scenarios would fit. That, you come there, you have food, and then you got the upper room or the blue room and places like that, because you live in the wall of a city. So, and then those people we know did all kind of debased things back then at that time. And it would fit why they would come to that particular area in the first place, around to her house. Because if you come to the house, Israelites shouldn't be hanging out in a place like that. Remember, just a little before that, they had the issue with Baal Peor and the women's of Moab, and then they had them orgies going on. So for them to go to a place like this, they would fit the story better. So you could discuss it further amongst your various teachers, but it will play into the role of what they need to do as a spy. So that, they're going to a place where people frequent. So you got the high elite, Judge Jones, Captain Travis, Emperor Salini, you got all these people coming to the spot, so to speak, and hang out, and they got their favorite. So like a brothel. And plus you might go there because they might have a certain food, but you live in the wall of the city of Jericho. All right, so now when we get to the second verse, what it says?
Verse 2 reads, "And it was told the king of Jericho, saying, Behold, there came men in hither tonight of the children of Israel to search out the land. And the king of Jericho sent unto Rahab, saying, Bring forth the men that are come to thee, that are entered into thy house, for they are come to search out all the land. And the woman took the two men and hid them. And she said, Yea, the men came unto me, but I knew not whence they were. And it came to pass about the time of the shutting of the gate, when it was dark, that the man went out. Whither the man went, I know not. Pursue after them quickly, for ye shall overtake them."
Hold right there, before we go to the sixth verse. All right. What is important is that roughly, I just used around number 40 years, 39 years, right? But 40 years ago, them guys wasn't being chased. Them guys hung out for 40 days, and they bring in produce. So nobody was looking to hurt them or attack them for whatever reason. We got a lot of different, commentaries on it, but those 40 years ago, those other guys, it wasn't under that kind of threat. Here, these guys, now, this is right after several scrimmages, several scrimmages going on, that people watching us. We had the story about Bilam in the 40s, that's in the 40th year too, which is going to come up later on, but we had that story, and that's later on too. So sometimes things may not be in a chronological order, but what's interesting is that the last spot they seen them, was that they had to tighten up Sihon and all. So those are two major battlefronts right there. And but the last actual fight was with Midian, because after the fight of Midian, then Moses was supposed to pass the reins on. So when we look at the chronological things, Sihon and all, and then the battle of the Midianites, and then now we mourning for Moses because he done left out. Then Joshua sends out some spies that we don't know who their name are, but we knew who all the other guys were, about 40 years ago. And when women names are usually kept anonymous, she got more of a role in this here Haftarah than the men do, because we don't have a clue who they are. So it going focus not on those guys on the mission, but they're going to focus around this woman, Rahab, you know. And what's even more interesting is that how did the king know when Joshua kept it a secret that that's what their mission was? And who told the king? And then when the people got a warrant, for us as a people of color, we know when they got a warrant, they ain't knocking on the door, they're busting down the door. They ain't tell you to send nobody, they're going to collect somebody. So when you look at those different dynamics, how is it that they gave this woman so much respect and tell her, look here, send them on over here. Like that. And then why would they even listen to her? And she sounds like a Confederate. But let's read a little bit further, you know, into the story, because we read now the focus is taken off those guys that went secretly. The focus in this whole Haftarah is about Rahab, not about those two guys. We don't know who they are. All right, read a little bit further.
It reads,
verse
6. But she had brought them up to the roof and hid them with the stalks of flax, which she had spread out upon the roof. And the man pursued after them the way to the Jordan unto the fords. And as soon as they pursued after them were gone out, the gate was shut. And before
now we got another problem. We got another problem. If you figure you got enemy in your place, shouldn't you have the security locked down everything? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You should say, okay, lock it all up. Bring out the army. Get everybody involved now. You know, we got a fugitive on the loose. You know what I mean? We got a spy in our midst. So we're gonna put security on an all-time red alert. No, but no, you know, that didn't happen here. So the Creator working in a certain way, and plus she sound to them like a patriot, because she gave them, and it's another subtle thing that I'm gonna bring out later on. She bring them information that's misinformation to deter them. They go follow, a ghost, a false pursuit, and yet what's more dynamic is what she hid them, and they accept her word off the bat. Now, what kind of woman she is? She's an innkeeper, a prostitute, whatever the case is, but she got a lot of juice where people listen to her. Where these guys were sent by the king and said, no, you can catch up with them. Going out there, you know, and let's see what happened.
Verse 8 reads, and before they were laid down, she came up unto them upon the roof. And she said unto the men, I know that Yehudah hath given you the land, and that your terror is fallen upon us, and that all the inhabitants of the land melt away before you.
How ready before we go to 10? Before we go to 10. All right. One thing I like to bring out here also is that if she knew, the rest of the people knew. They, so the king and everybody knew what Israel did. So that's not a secret. Everybody watching Israel from a distance. No secret. Everybody heard about the battles that they won. It's not a secret. But what I said we will come back to is that Joshua told them at the beginning, and that's why a lot of times we might miss this. At the beginning, it says, and Joshua sent the son of Nun sent out of Shittim 2 spies secretly, saying, go view the land and Jericho. Did they get a chance to see the land, or their first stop was Jericho? They didn't get a chance to check the land out. They didn't get a chance to check the layout. All they was able to do was get to Jericho, their first stop, and next thing you know, they were wanted. They become a fugitive. Whereas prior, the other guys got a chance to walk through the whole land uninhibited, and Joshua kept it between them, and yet everybody know what these guys are here for. So all this espionage going on like that, like a real Mission Impossible type thing, that I'm supposed to check out the land and Jericho, but as far as I can make it is Jericho, and the closest spot I could get is in this house, in the wall. So I didn't even get a chance to walk in the city, per se. I got to this door, as far as is, and next thing you know, the law's on me. The authorities and power to be is on me. So that's why I said the mission changes from focusing on the spies, more so, until actually the people and this woman. So now, as we get into the 10th verse, it says,
Verse 10 reads, "For we have heard how Yehudah dried up the water of the Red Sea before you,
keep
when ye
on.
came out of Egypt, and what ye did unto the 2 kings of the Amorites that were beyond the Jordan, unto Sihon and to Og, whom ye utterly destroyed. And as soon as we had heard it, our hearts did melt, neither did there remain any more spirit in any man because of you. For Yehovah your God, he is God in heaven above and on earth beneath. Now therefore I pray you, swear unto me by Yehovah, since I have dealt kindly with you, that ye also will deal kindly with my father's house, and give me a true token. And save alive my father and my mother and my brethren and my sisters, and all that they have, and deliver our lives from death."
Hold it there before we go to 14. Before we go to 14. And she heard it, the whole city heard it. They knew about them coming there to spy. So they knew about their mission. So now, if you look at that, and they talk about Sihon and all, why they didn't talk about Midian? Because Midian was really nobody. Sihon, that's major league. You beat them boys up. Them some bad boys you beat up. They had melodies and songs of triumph for them guys there. So even Moab, you know, I mean, get their territory beat up from and snatched up by, Sihon and all of them guys, the Amorites. So now when we look at that, those history that she's running down, and say, if everybody afraid, why you ain't got no security? They only locked the gates after the guys went to pursue 2 men. And then not only that, what's even more, astounding is that here it is, these guys here, they ain't talking about making the army more vigilant. They ain't even saying, let's go attack them with the army. They attack the Israelites. Say they're afraid. So what are they doing? I'm gonna stand pat and wait and see what's the outcome gonna be. They ain't attacking us, but they don't want to be attacked. And then she's saying that. So now, if she's so afraid, what made her decide to help? Those are some of the questions you get to talk about. If I'm afraid, they're afraid, why I'm helping you? And now we can pick it up from here, 14.
Verse 14 reads, "And the men said unto her, Our life for yours, if you tell not this our business, and it shall be when Yehovah giveth us the land that we will deal kindly and truly with thee. Then she let them down by a cord through the window, for her house was upon the side of the wall, and she dwelt upon the wall. And she said unto them, Get you to the mountain, lest the pursuers light upon you, and hide yourselves there 3 days, until the pursuers be returned, and afterward may ye go your way. And the man said unto her, We will be guiltless of this thine oath, which thou hast made us to swear. Behold, when we come into the land, thou shalt bind this line of scarlet thread in the window, which thou didst let us down by, and thou shalt gather unto thee into the house thy father, and thy mother, and thy brethren, and all thy father's household. And it shall be that whosoever shall go out of the doors of thy house into the street, his blood shall be upon his head, and we will be guiltless. Whosoever shall be with thee in the house, his blood shall be on our head, if any hand be upon him. But if thou utter this our business, then we will be guiltless of thine oath, which thou hast made us to swear. And she said,
before we go further, they made a clause. Now they're on a mission. Their word, they must have carried some serious weight to make a bargain like that and expect the commander, Joshua, to go along with it. But then, Joshua was already assured by the Creator that as I was with Moses, so shall I be with you. Only be strong and of good courage. So now at this time, they got to, they're making a pact with this woman whose reputation or character is very, very questionable. Now, when she went up there and discussed what she should do with them, who could sleep with somebody looking for you to hurt you? That's something to think about. It's nighttime. And it said she went up there before they went to lay down to go to sleep. So before you lay down, who could rest? When I'm saying I'm on a hideout and I gotta stay here, and then I gotta leave also at night. So those things there. Excuse me. Excuse me. Some of those things there is something to really consider. The very dynamics that was going on in this particular story. All right, so we're gonna pick it up from the 21st.
Verse 20, it reads, 21st verse, it reads,
Yes.
And she said, according unto your words, so be it. And she sent them away, and they departed, and she bound the scarlet line in the window. And they went and came unto the mountain and abode there 3 days until the pursuers were returned. And the pursuers sought them throughout all the way, but found them not. Then the two.
Before we go to the last two verses. Mm-hmm. That means they were looking hard. If you're looking for somebody for 3 days and the march ain't that far, that means you're turning every little leaf and tree over just trying to find these two guys. And she make them think that you could overtake them. So they riding hard the first time. They probably figure I rode so hard, we overlooked it. And imagine 3 days on a search for two individuals that really didn't travel that far. And she sent them the opposite direction, which is to the mountains. And one of the things they say, well, why Jericho? Well, Jericho would be like the key battleground, the key spot, because if they beat and destroy the walls of Jericho, then the rest of the land would be easy picking. So the first battle and confrontation would be at the hardest point, which is Jericho. And so therefore, once you beat Jericho, that's like keys to the city of Canaan. So she made the bargain with them. But what is more, what I like to say is that here, the people wanted to kill those guys. She's saving their life and her family member's life. So here's a woman that's supposed to be somewhat an ill-reputed character, but yet she not only has some godly qualities about her, but she feared, losing her family members. Said mother, father, sister, and brother. How many in your family? How many gonna fit in the house? So it had to be a decent size. And how many people gonna come up in there and stay there? Will anybody feel patriotic and fight against the Israelites that come? Or they just gonna stay in the house? So there's a lot of things we can look at in the dynamics. Now, what I was gonna say before, what I find kind of unique in this situation is that when it comes to people doing something like really, females pretty much, doing something really, really, as we for lack of a better word, tainted, like she lied to the guys about people. She lied to them straight out. And she sent them on a wild goose chase on top of that. And yet she's saving their life at the same time. We have a thing, Yael, later on when they was fighting, that Yael, when Barak was fighting against Sisera in the book of Judges, that she took a tent peg and subtly let the general come in there, the king, go in there, lay down, gave him milk, and pinned his head to the ground. the story brings out foreign women doing more deceptive stuff. You don't find Israelite women, the closer you can find anything remotely involved in that, remotely, and it's on a different level, is when we talk about Mother Rivka with the blessing that she told Jacob to try to get from his father. But other than that, as far as Israelite women in the book, you don't find, a good Israelite woman trying to do some real negative thing. You got like Jezebel, Athaliah, these are, strange people. Right? Jezebel more so than Athaliah. But so we're gonna deal with the last two verses. 23.
Verse 23, it reads, Then the two men returned and descended from the mountain and passed over and came to Joshua the son of Nun. And they told him all that had befallen them. And they said unto Joshua, Truly Yehovah hath delivered into our hands all the land. Moreover, all the inhabitants of the land do melt away before us. Hallelujah.
They believe her and took her word on it. They took her word on that, because they was only there for a short while. And they took her word that that's the way everybody feel. Not just us, not just me, but here I'm trying to rescue you, so therefore you're gonna owe me a favor. So I hope you got some out what I said, and I know I went a little quick, but discuss those stories over and over again, because there's a lot of things that's within Shalom, especially dealing with the ZCs, also dealing when we're looking to the new offerings that's added, also to the Shabbat breaker within it, also the plague, what happens to those 10 guys, how people, when God said, don't do something, what we want to do something, as opposed to following the creative command. And the most important part from the story of Shalom and the Haftarah is stay on the mission, stay on course. Don't ad lib. If you focus on the mission, that's a godly mission, you'll always be successful. So with that, I say, Shalom, I'm not going to make mistakes with my own.
Hallelujah. Nasik.
Yes.
So I have a question, right? This always was one of my the things that I thought about. So the Rahab was held to secrecy, right? In terms of keeping everyone safe in the house, and so that the oath will be put or held together. And one of the main things was for her to keep this secret to herself. But when we invaded Jericho, we surrounded it for 7 days. We besieged it for 7 days. So didn't that almost like keeping it a secret, I guess, didn't it it didn't really matter at that point, did it?
Well, no, it mattered in the sense that, they kept their word. We read where they actually kept the word, in that matter. But what is phenomenal is that when you march around Jericho for 7 days, and the seventh time on the seventh day, you say, oh, they ain't gonna bust a grape. Not going on. So they felt secure because they ain't banging on the door. They ain't shooting no arrows. They ain't light any fires. They just walking around and they ain't say a word. So, and they sat back down and chill. Walk around, we ain't biting them in. They sat down and chill. And also, so you'll get a false sense of security. And then if you walk around the city like that 7 times in 1 day, then you say, oh man, they gotta be too weak to fight if they had to fight. That's not even good fighting strategy. To do a 7-time march around a city wall and then talk about we ready to rumble. So all that was, we could look at it and say, well, this could feed into this false sense of security. And then if Zona, my zone, like another term for food, to provide a cafeteria, so she had food there in stock, and they could see firsthand. So it looked like nothing going on. They're just marching. Leave them alone. They ain't busting a grape. So you'll get a false sense of security because the rules was march, don't say a word, and chill. Till they hear the trumpets wax, and then the walls start to sink down. So that was a surprise mode. And then at that time, she could have told the family, y'all need to stay in here if you want to be safe. If you go outside, you're going to die. Trust me. You know how women sometimes can be convincing.
How about for 7 days they marched. One of those days had to be the Shabbat day. How do you explain walking around the whole city on the Shabbat day and it not being considered some type of laborious thing? How big was this city? Can you explain that?
Well, it was a nice size. It was further than the cubits that we were stationed from the tabernacle, which would be the 2,000 cubits. That we know that for sure. But the thing was that if you told to do something by the command of the Creator, and then remember those two silver trumpets we just read about before in Haftarah, right? Those holy vessels that would be blown when the trumpets is sound, strong on the seventh day, and everybody shout. That's at the behest of the Creator, and they had the ark traveling with them. So everything became at the behest of the Creator. So you have things that that's supernatural for us when we work in the frame of Creator. When Joshua, even when the fight says, "Moon thou stay, sun stand thou still upon Mount Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Ajalon." So now that means if you're standing still, time pretty much standing still for a moment. So there's a lot of unusual things going on. But if the Creator tell you to do something on the Shabbat day, then you got His permission to do it, just like the priest got to function on the Shabbat day and all other holy days where we are prohibited. So you read about the guy picking up sticks. He went to gather, and he was told specifically not to do that on the Shabbat day, gather anything. So that's why we march on Shabbat with the clearance of the Creator.
Got you. Okay. Thank you once again for your insight, for your wisdom and the understanding that the Most High has blessed you with, and I hope that you have a great week.
All right, all of us. All right, take care. Shalom.
Shalom, shalom.